Why are we here?
What is my life about? Why is there life at all? How is it done? What's going on here? Why am I here?
Where do we come from?
Look at quantum physics.
An immense quantum mechanical iceberg of possibility.
Quantum mechanics allows supreme mind.
The brain is capable of millions of neural nets.
Cascades of biochemical events.
An emotional response. The brain does not know the difference between what it sees in its environment and what it remembers.
We are running the holodeck.
Whatever way we observe the world around us,
The rabbit hole and how deep and how far we want to go is really how much do you want to discover about your true nature?
Anybody who spends too much time trying to explain it is likely to get lost forever down the rabbit hole of mysteriousness.
What becomes real? Is it our body? Is it our cumulative genetics? Is it how we look? Is it how we walk? Is it how much we weigh or don't weigh?
What we're going to do with that knowledge and how we're going to speculate and examine possibilities and potentials to ask the big questions. What if? What would it be like? How would it be? The moment we ask those questions, it forces the brain to begin to fire in new sequences and new patterns. It breaks the routine.
I was basically trying to find the answers to what I've often called those four great questions that everybody faces, whether they realize it or not, even the agnostics and the atheists, as well as the believers and the pious. And that is, who are we? Where do we come from? What should we do? And where are we going? And if you don't answer those four great questions, obviously your life is pretty meaningless. And many people just stuff those questions down, and they want the answers made for them, or they want somebody like Jesus or Krishna or Buddha or somebody else to do it for them. It can't be done. It's like wanting someone to be born for you, or to die for you, or to eat your lunch for you. These things are inescapably personal.
What is truth? What is lasting truth? What is really important to you?
Questions about whether the world really looks anything like we take it to look, or whether this is just something that's radically altered by being filtered through our perspective, so on and so forth. These are questions which I take it everybody has a natural curiosity about. These are questions, these are the sorts of questions that, thinking about them is what makes life interesting.
Physics of mind, physics of thought. What is a thought? What's it made of? Is it made of anything? Does it have its own independent reality?
So these are the kind of things that we have to ask about. These are some of the questions that quantum physicists and so forth are looking at, and some of the questions that researchers of consciousness studies are looking at to try to uncover and unravel what is human consciousness and how we make sense of it.
Why are we here? Well, that is the ultimate question, isn't it? By we, I assume you mean consciousness, conscious beings. That's we. So why is consciousness here?
Do we really think we've used the mass of our brain power? You think we've really reached the depth of our intelligence? That would be an insult to us. We're really great beings.
Where do we end? Where do we end and the rest of the world begin? How come we feel separate when we aren't separate? And of course, one of the big questions is, if everything is mutable and reality isn't set, well, how come it feels solid?
The question really is, what is God doing to make a universe?
Oh, God. When we ask the great questions, something amazing happens in our mind. We have to stop the routine way in which we think. We have to stop allowing the environment to turn on the circuits in our brain that cause us to think the repetitive patterns that we are so in the habit of thinking on a daily basis. To ask the great questions is to be an inspiration. It's to stop the moving locomotive of our life.
Are all realities existing simultaneously? Is there a possibility that all potentials exist side by side? Have you ever seen yourself through the eyes of someone else that you have become? And looked at yourself through the eyes of the ultimate observer?
So the film asks, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? Remember that Alice went down the rabbit hole following, where she met the Mad Hatter. The Hatter was mad. Hatters became mad from mercury poisoning. And the idea was you want to get out of the rabbit hole after you've gone in. So there's two stages to science. There's the crazy part where you go down the rabbit hole, and then there's the part where you check the craziness of your ideas against a rigorous, strict, straitjacket-like process.
I think the interesting thing about science, the interesting thing about physics, is that it is a genuinely new and novel way of trying to come to grips with the world. I think the experimental method, which is important to physics, is a very different business from the method of revelation or the method of meditation or something like that. I don't think it's true that, for example, adherents of, say, Buddhism could imagine changing their beliefs based on the outcomes of some experiments people do with electrons.
Why this apparent rift between the church and science, or between science and religion, emerged today? I think the roots of that are very deep.
Is Newsreel Films presents exciting news! Is the divorce over? Are spirit and science tying the knot once more? Are the church and the laboratory saying the same thing? Out of the misty ages of antiquity, the quest for the divine and the quest for knowledge about the universe marched hand in hand. Ancient Sumer, there was a god of astronomy, a god of horticulture, a god of irrigation, and the temple priests were the scribes and technologists investigating these fields of knowledge. Ancient Greece, philosophers asking the questions of why are we here, developed the theory of the atom, celestial movement, and human ethics. Medieval Europe, the Western Church arose to a position of supreme power, kingmaker, landowner, and purveyor of the truth. The Church took it upon themselves to be the one knower of everything. The dogma was law.
Because it